go. Welcome to the S.H.O.P, the Social Hub of Positivity. Really interesting guest today. Person that I have known for many years, been around Chippenham, but you possibly, if from the Wiltshire area, you'll know this gentleman. If you're connected to the Folk Festival, you'll know this gentleman. If you're connected to Oxenwood, Youth Action Wiltshire,
yes,
all sorts of good initiatives for the community over the years. So this is a two-part interview. One part is generally about this extraordinary individual, and the other bit is specifically about the Folk Festival. So you'll see various bits. The one will be at the cinema, the other one will just be on our podcast, the S.H.O.P, the Social Hub of Positivity. This extraordinary human being is Mr. Dick Stanger. Dick, can you just tell this audience, as if they've never met you, a bit about yourself, your previous history, and all the stuff you've been involved in, and these fantastic biking adventures you've had, and then we'll go into the Folk Festival, if that's all right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Maybe the Folk Festival we're here for today.
Yeah, of course.
Well, to put a potted history on myself, I'm one of the only people left around here that was born in the 30s. I started school in the 30s and went through the war, apprenticeship in the steelworks, then Royal Air Force, then designing car headlamps. Then I came down to Chippenham, Wiltshire, and worked on semiconductors, making the magic chip. Worked on that for many years before moving off to management on lighting again, back on lighting. Took me up to well into the 50s when I was made redundant, when they shut the factory down. And at that I retrained as a school teacher and taught special needs and disableds at Wiltshire College, Trowbridge. Moved from there to Youth Action Wiltshire. A couple of years with Bernardo's, part-time while I was at Youth Action Wiltshire. And then I retired. Retired at 84. Well, I didn't actually retire, I was made redundant.
Oh, really?
But when you go down to the Labour Exchange at 84, they've got nothing for you.
That's shocking. Well, they don't know you.
So that's me. In the meantime, I've been involved when I came down to Chippenham, I got straight away involved with the Starlets, and I was on the Bath Theatre Royal stage with the company there for 4 years. That was fantastic, working on a real stage. One of the things about a full theatre, as you're there on the first opening, the lights come on, and the lights at the back are shining, and if it's full, the back row has been sold, and you can see the shadow of their heads from the stage. And when you start to do a show, to know that the theatre is full is a fantastic feeling.
So what sort of shows? So tell me this. Do you come from the Midlands?
Yes.
Wow, whereabouts?
Sorry?
Whereabouts?
Midlands and Northamptonshire, Kettering and Northamptonshire,
Right.
both me and my wife.
Right,
We moved down
fantastic.
here
So you moved down here?
with the family.
Right.
We've got 2 girls by the time we moved down here, and a third one was born down here. Our family now lives either here or Shepton Mallet, split between the two. We're involved, as come on to Chippenham Festival. The rest of the family are very involved with Glastonbury Festival, and well, the Pyramid Stage. You've seen that.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter was on the team that made that. She made it.
What, as an engineer?
No, it's the canvas cover. She makes
Right.
She makes circus tents.
Does she
That's
really?
that's her business. And
Fantastic.
and if you've seen the Chippenham Festival, the big red and yellow tent down there, that's one of her smallest.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Her biggest has got a license for 13,500 people
Wow.
in one tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
So they're involved with Glastonbury. We're all involved with Sidmouth Festival, which is the biggie, and that was the one that Chippenham was modelled on.
Right, that's interesting. Now let's drill down on that then.
Right.
So how did you get involved in Sidmouth Folk Festival? For anyone that doesn't know it, it's absolutely a phenomenal thing.
When we first moved down to Chippenham, we didn't know anybody much. My wife went to a dance class along with another friend, and they had the leaflets. and she thought that would be a good idea to take the family somewhere where there was plenty on, even if it was too wet for the beach.
Yes.
And that's how we went down in '69.
Wow.
And we've been every year since.
Wow.
I'm a freeman of the festival down there now, both me and my wife. One of the jobs we did down there was running the big secondary school where the foreign teams that used to come slept on camp beds.
Yeah.
And we've actually been in charge of just over 300 foreign people, with all speaking different languages, all having meals together. The camaraderie was fantastic.
Do you know, that's one of my fond memories. The first time I went to Sidmouth, I saw, and this is how eclectic the music was, saw all sorts, but there was a Japanese performer playing what was like a harp type of instrument with hammers, like a dulcimer.
Yeah.
Maybe not a dulcimer, but a Japanese version of it. Mind-blowing. In a little town like Sidmouth, because you guys went to the trouble of putting on a brilliant folk festival, which you're still involved with, aren't you?
It's actually, if you actually drill back to the mission statement where they stand, they're very similar to Chippenham. We're based on English, but we want to involve the folk traditions of other countries.
Yeah.
But the heart, the backbone is English folk.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense that and hopefully in each country there would be a similar type of reciprocity, whatever that word is. It's not that word, but it sounds like that word. You know, where you would go over English and British folk would be shared, because there is something running through the backbone of folk traditions. Rhythms, sometimes the acoustic instruments, sometimes the stringed instruments, how voices are used, dances are accompanied, all that. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? Fascinating. Just on human history and interpretation, and the need to have the music and have art. Now, if you started off by going to the Sidmouth, I can totally understand why you'd be inspired by Sidmouth, because I was just blown away. I was like 19. In the same way, we were working up in Hull, working with the social services up there, Can Do. So in the last 25 years, we went to the New Adelphi, which is a club that has an eclectic
in Hull,
of music, a collection of music. They have open mics. That's why when we came back, we started the first open mic in Chippenham. But compared to a folk festival, compared to where you've got the folk festival's got in Chippenham, open mics, nothing. Were you involved in the first ever Chippenham Folk Festival?
I was there at the first Chippenham Folk Festival. Yeah. I was there at the first Laycock Festival, on which Chippenham was based.
Right, tell us a bit about that then.
So, we went, that was 1971. We went over to Laycock for the day, and the Mr. Mortimer at the school was running a medieval fair. Not a folk festival, not a folk day, but it was a medieval. And that was a lovely day out. But on 72, a private individual, Nigel Benalek, I'm afraid he's left us now, but Nigel ran what he hoped was going to be a money maker. He was a Morris man with Westbury Morris, where the White Horse Morris is called. And he ran a private, it was the biggest folk festival around. People came from miles away. He hadn't catered for them at all. They had trouble, just a little point there. All the campers in the morning went and took milk bottles off the village steps because there was no arrangement.
Oh my Lord.
And there were lots of wrong things there.
Yeah.
But the festival artistically was great, and we liked that. People like myself that were going to folk festivals elsewhere, yes, we want some of that.
Yeah.
So the second year we ran a holding festival in conjunction with the EFDSS, which is the National Folk Society, of which I'm a member, and I represented there. I was on their committee for the first 10-15 years when the festival here was involved and supported by the National Society. We're now on our own, We are a community involved company. CIC, it's not involved, but it's
community interest company.
Community interest,
yes,
yeah, community interest
yeah.
company, and I've been on the committee for 50 years.
Wow.
I've now left the committee.
Yeah.
50 years is long enough, I
Well,
think.
but isn't the folk festival 50 years old? So you literally been on it all the time.
It's 50 years old this year, so to say. If you go from 1971, it's actually over 50 years, but we had a little hiccup with the pandemic. We ran through the pandemic.
Yeah.
In fact, last year we ran a festival here on limited, but it was really, really good. The year before, it was mainly on the internet, and we did it in conjunction with Chester.
Brilliant.
By two festivals getting together, we halved the outlay for the same
and then people
event,
can access it.
And that worked well. So
that's really formidable in the sense that it's a great exemplar for communities, isn't it? That you're a group of independent people who come together. Something that benefits the whole of community, because it's an absolute golden thing for Chippenham. I don't know if people don't get involved in the folk festival. For me, it's been something that puts us on the map. It's put this town on the map.
It has helped develop Chippenham.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
We were the first people to close the main road. And that my daughter worked at County Hall. Town Council says you can't do that. The North Wilts Council says you can't do that, you can't close the main road. My daughter, who worked her day job, was at County Hall at Roads and Bridges, said, I'm afraid that's the A4, it's a trunk road. You can close it with our authority. And she actually came and put the signs out on the first day that we closed the Chippenham Main Street.
What year was that? Can you remember?
Sometime in the late 80s. I can't remember.
So what was the rationale of the town council not?
It was the Borough Council, it was called in the early days, Chippenham Borough Council. And we had trouble with them because when we tried to get permission to start the folk festival was at the time that we had the pop festivals that were causing problems, and we had real trouble with the old mayor saying we can't have a pop festival here, and Doug Cleverley, who was really was a really first class councillor for Chippenham. He was a community man.
100%. That's what we need more of.
He was point of order, Mr. Chairman. It's a folk festival, and every time the mayor was coming back, it's a pop festival. But we got and the day that the council got the road closed, which was after our roadness, one of the other councillors, he did the Saxon festival, and me and him laid on our backs on the middle of the street, and he said to me, "We're going to close this," and I said, "We already have." So we led the council on that one.
What do you think the resistance was? Because I'm, as you probably know, over the years, I've had my dealings with town councils and county councils and find it quite bizarre, some of their behaviour. What do you think the resistance was to you guys doing a folk festival?
The resistance, to my mind, is the town. It's a good town council, better than most, but it is set in its ways. They rely on tradition and not changing too many things, and we wanted to change things.
Yeah, but this is years ago.
We started Island Park because that was a piece of wasteland that belonged to Nestles. And we used to have to pay them £1 a year to use and go and cut the stinging nettles ourselves. Yeah. And eventually that's become a real asset for the town.
A fantastic asset for the town. So that's basically come about because of the folk festival.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow, that is amazing. So you get permission to close the road the first year. Is there resistance the second year?
No.
They kind of realised that you brought loads of people from outside the town, and all of a sudden we had a town that people could be proud of.
Resistance to change, once you've got change, they're very good at analysing how much of that change they really want and how much they'll go along. What really disappoints me is that after all these years, the way we've supported the town, the way we've helped develop parts of the town, and there's only us and Jennings Fun Fair, have to pay to use the park. The Folk Festival pays to use the park.
No, you're going to blow my mind. Sorry?
No.
You have to pay. The Folk Festival has to pay who?
Pay Wiltshire County Council. And now it's Town Council have taken over. So we have to pay Town Council for the use of Monkton Park and to put the caravans on, and Town Park to run our displays.
Right, so they don't think that the income and also it's essentially a massive tourist attraction, that it advertises the town. I go there, you see the acts that come from all over the country and some from all over the world, but from all over the country to bring this unique thing together and you. So do they give you money in return then to run?
We get money for some things. We get money for the children's events. So yes, there is money comes from Town Council. In 50 years, we've never had a penny from the County Council. In fact, one year we had their arts, their poetry man come over, and they actually billed us for it. I was the director at that point in time, and no, we did not pay that bill.
Good lad. Do you think it's? I don't know. I don't want to do. I struggle to get my head around a lot of, and we worked with a lot of district councils and county councils, and I've been to the Home Office, and it always amazes me, particularly when you get local councillors who don't work in the community. They don't really. I don't know why they do it. Bless them. They probably do it for a hobby, but the point is they don't know anything really about society, how society works, and the net benefit, and the value added that are positive. Because let's look at all the positives. Forget about the fact that it brings tourism, because it definitely does. Never seen so many people in the town. Literally never see so many people in the town until the Folk Festival, ever. So that's every year since I've known the town from back in the 80s. So it brings people from all over. It gives, I go to places, people, I know the Chippenham Folk Festival. That's that sort of beautiful thing you can associate with the town. It fills the town with colour, joy, culture. It shares different culture. It allows our children, our community to appreciate and to be stimulated by other people's interpretation of folk, history, culture, but also our many Morris. I'm thinking that we've
Morrison displays.
Displays, and you've also got Hips and Haws, the female. I'm laughing because we had them at our Laycock thing we did for the National Trust back in the year 2000, and I was on we did giants and all sorts of stuff, and we had the Hips and Haws. Whoever did the poster spelt Haws in the way that you shouldn't really, because it's obviously Rose Hips and Rose Haws or whatever it is, but they were Hips and Haws, I think. The person didn't quite understand the folk.
We've had several ladies' sides, and we've had a mixed side. Chippenham Morris itself is a man's team, and I'm part of it, and I'm still dancing.
Yes, and so there's the whole thing about that, isn't it? The tradition. You've got people like Pete Causer has been in it for years. Is he still involved, Pete Causer?
Yeah.
And
Torquil. And he's now the chairman of the Folk Festival committee, the guiding committee.
Is he?
Yes.
Good. Because you guys have been involved in that, and the actual side, the Morris side. So for me, it's a no-brainer. In fact, surely you would be getting money from the town council, the county council.
Not county, we get
Borough Lands.
Town.
Borough Lands must have been funding it as well. Have they not been because it's the same? Borough Lands?
Borough Lands, very much so. We're on the same wavelength as Borough Lands. That their objectives are to do the things that we want to do. Right from from when they started, which was after the folk festival. Actually, they weren't there for the first year, but when they gave us the money for the seats and the staging in the Island Park, as long as it was free for the people of the town.
Perfect.
And that's always been that way.
Well, rightly so, because the actual borough land's money is for the people of the town.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it should maybe be used, and I don't know about now, but back in the day, it was certainly used more so for individuals. It's actually exclusively for people from Chippenham. So funny enough, we're doing a whole investigation into that, because it seems to have, money goes here, there and everywhere now. But having those, combining those elements, you also do an education thing as well. And the schools are connected, aren't they? Can you explain a bit about that?
Schools are connected. We've tried very hard to involve secondary schools. We've tried once or twice. We have managed to, over the years, get display teams from the secondary schools, but it's the Friday that they break up for a holiday. And although we've had some really top class professional people working in the schools during the week before the festival, it's never really been a success, and we have to watch our outlay. And if we're not careful, that becomes an outlay with no return.
100%. And in blessed schools, as you know, Can Do works alongside all the schools around, but particularly secondary schools, we are actually we're working alongside the new organisers of the Folk Festival, going to have young people, teenagers particularly, because I get that point. I always remember it was primary schools that had a really good, and you can understand how that works. And it's kind of good that at a young age, young children from all different cultures actually go to English schools and see, and if you guys didn't do it, I don't think it would be done as much. The folk tradition, not indoctrination, it's just really fascinating to see the folk tradition specifically of Wiltshire. So we are going to be performing on the island that you've now provided for.
Excellent.
With young people, we're going to be doing English songs, Irish songs, Croatian songs, Spanish songs, Polish songs and Ukrainian songs, because we've got a community choir now made up of guests from Ukraine, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales.
And that's what it's about,
isn't it? 100%.
To me, that's what it's about. That's what it's always been about.
Right. And I've always observed it as that, and thinking this, as I say, when I used to go to folk clubs in around Bath or Trowbridge, pre-going to Sidmouth, so there used to be little folk clubs dotted around this county.
There are not so many in these days.
No, not at all, but there used to be. That used to be the place, well before open mics, where whether people had instruments or not, people would just get in and they'd sing together.
Absolutely.
Now, lots of the pubs get involved, don't they?
Absolutely. And we do select the pubs a little bit and try and select what goes on them. We seed, for many years, the Little George, which is now an Italian restaurant, that always did traditional jazz, trad jazz, and swing jive and things like that. They're on the edge of folk tradition, but I really used to love the swing jive.
I like that because I think there's room, once you go to so much trouble, and you guys have been to so much trouble over the years, to get people to respect the nature of what it is, because these performers could literally perform anywhere. A lot of them, obviously, they'll pick specific places that are run, organised properly, that they're respected, paid, all that good stuff, where the infrastructure is really good, but that you have scope to include even more types of music that are going to inspire another generation. So you do jazz, you just said to me, with a little pause, and you said that you also did breakdancing for 2 years, not you personally, because that would just be too much. Breakdancing was involved in the festival.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 years in a row.
And this is when we did displays on what is now Borough Parade.
Yes. Well, the old Sainsbury's used to be there, didn't it?
Sainsbury's was there at the back.
And then you had that.
Just one funny little story, and the way we helped the town, or try to. I was there on a Tuesday after the Folk Festival, clearing up, really tired, clearing up the rubbish, getting our stuff out of the office. And the council's men were in Borough Parade, as it was then, the old area, digging up the flower beds. And I said, what are you doing here? You know, just out of interest. We've got to take the flower beds away for the folk festival. I said, well, you've got a year.
Wow. Wow.
So although we work with the council and we've been very lucky, they're not on the same wavelength as us.
Yeah.
And you've got to bend a bit to work with them. And as I say, flower beds moving on the Tuesday after the folk festival is...
That's kind of symbolic, isn't it? Of the speed of local bureaucracy, which kind of puts into question why they don't rely on organisations that know what they're doing, trust them, invest in them, and allow them to do it. There's no point for me. A council should obviously represent the people in its catchment area, from the poorest to the richest, that way round, actually, those that need the help most, but also to support individuals and organisations that are doing the do.
Yes.
So if you're people that have gone to the trouble of going, because you have to do, as anyone who wants to organise anything would find out publicly, everything from the insurance, public liability, but health and safety into the nth degree of every possible configuration of what may or may not happen to be wind, rain, storms, floods, everything. People don't get it. In fact, we're going to have young people filming the setup of the folk festival this year.
Excellent.
On one of those things, going around interviewing people, both the performers from all over and the audience, and hopefully we're going to find people from all over the country to prove what I'm saying to you about why did you come here, where did you come from, and what do you think of it, as well as people looking at what it takes just on the island to set up the infrastructure for the event, because it's mammoth, and it just happens. Just happens. Goes on, town gets on with itself. Folk festival, year in, beautifully, springs out of nowhere, becomes this massive. All the market square, you name it, fantastic colour, vibrancy, music, great atmosphere, and then goes. And you just think, well, wait a minute, this is why we wanted to do this. I wonder how many people know how hard this is to get off the ground. It makes sense that if apparently it's an official 50th, it's our 25th anniversary. It's like, yeah, you guys have been going. I remember when
50, 51, 52, according to where you see it.
No, but now we know that it's actually more than 50, even more impressive. How things evolve, the lineage, the sort of basis for people who might watch this or to understand that these things have foundations, and if you don't understand what solid foundations look like, you can't replicate, it's not even a word, replicate that. And of course, legacy is that you want things to continue and to continually improve. And that's with who gets involved, and this is why it's amazing that you've had jazz, breakdancing, it's an inclusive music. Oh no, it's not rock and roll.
We've had some fantastic music from other countries. Yeah. We had the children from Dagestan, which is now part of Russia. Yeah. The young children came without their parents. Amazing. We put them up in their own houses, and their dancing was terrific. Yeah. Their organisation as a club was something we'd never seen before. We had 3 children staying in one house, as I know one of our people took them out. They got in the bath, and they'd never been in the bath like ours before. They filled it to the rim, and then the 3 children got in. It didn't work.
Wow, but that's a cultural exchange. That's fantastic, though, isn't it? In the sense of them experiencing another culture, so it goes
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. What a lot of people don't realise is that about half of the folk festival and most of the income comes from indoor events. Yeah. We love the collections and that sort of thing, but they're quite small. People that buy a ticket for the weekend and go into the dances, the lectures, the workshops, the musical concerts, the instrumental learning how to play instruments and things like that. They pay a ticket
Yeah.
a 4-day ticket,
Yeah.
or they can buy a day as well.
Yeah.
And that's what is the main income for the folk festival.
Yeah.
And that's going on now. That we now use the national agencies on the internet, same as more or less everyone else.
Yeah.
You buy a ticket to Chippenham the same way you buy a ticket to Glastonbury.
Of course. And why wouldn't you?
Ours is a bit more available.
Yes, 100%. That's also what's beautiful about it. That it's absolutely accessible. It's not like behind closed doors or behind fences that you go through and it's exclusive.
Yeah.
It is kind of really what it is, a folk festival. A folk is for the people.
Yeah.
I've got nothing but respect.
There are
for
things
people.
that are indoors and they're nearly always full up. People who come. But that's for the involved and the very interested people. There's some of the concerts are for people who are on the fringe who just want to go to a concert. Some of them are for specialists, interested people.
Yeah.
And there's both ends.
Yeah.
I remember we had the Guo brothers came from China, and they played the sheng instrument, which we'd never seen before, and they did a workshop on that. And it's one, because I actually had one later, where it's like a bowl of a large pipe with a set of penny whistles on it, except these are different. They've got a reed on them that is stationary in the middle. When the man closes the player closes the hole on that particular pipe, it resonates and the reed starts moving either way.
Right.
So it's a completely different idea, but it's still a reed instrument.
Yeah.
The interesting thing to me was this: one of the guys I worked with in the factory that I worked, I've got one of them on my mantelpiece. I've had it for years. And he actually let me have it. He didn't play, and I was able to take it to bits and sort it out. And this is an instrument that we've never seen in England before.
Never.
In China, it's been there for
I wonder, can you
centuries.
find that on the internet just to put a visual on this thing? That's amazing.
Sheng, or they say shong, but it's spelled sheng.
Yeah.
And a fantastic instrument.
You know, you said you were performing at the theatre back in the day, in the Starlets and stuff. As an actor or a singer, what were you doing? What's your folk? How do you perform? What's your own particular type of performance, or has been?
Performance, not a lot really, but until I came down here with Starlets with Betty Hooper, and we did what were originally the black and white minstrel shows back in the day.
Yeah.
But we went on to variety shows, and what you learn as a performer on the stage is how to present a show. And then to become director of the Folk Festival for 25 years, I was the director, the main man, to learn about how to present something, how to make it correct for the people, make it the right length, make it the right interest, and how to advertise it to get the people there in the first place.
Yeah.
All comes back from days on the theatre stage.
Yeah.
The Theatre Royal, Bath, fantastic little cinema.
Oh yeah. Theatre. Yeah.
And I loved my years there, and the costumes, and yes, and that's helped a lot with the Folk Festival.
Yeah. So you got that knowledge of show, which is really important, because the infrastructure and now your daughter's gone on to make. Is that any way connected? The fact that she's grown up around you, going to folk festivals and seeing marquees and.
Well, I suppose so. My mum was on stage with Gracie Fields.
No way. Wow.
Before I was born, obviously. She was a singer. Not that, I mean, I just knew her as mum, and she died when I was 9. So.
Oh, bless you.
Not too young in the war, growing up with. Five children and Dad running a shop and looking after us, but he brought us up well. And
fair play.
Not really involved in theatre too much, but even working in as I did in Youth Action Wiltshire, which is very similar, going around the clubs. I got involved with several clubs, particularly the one at Pewsey that does theatre and stage work, And even after I retired, they asked me if I'd go back and judge their competitions because they felt that I understood and that my feedback was the sort of feedback they wanted. And I was really chuffed with that.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
So, how many people were on the committee back in the day? How many people were helping get this amazing thing off the ground?
The committee was a little bit open-ended, but we have about 10 on the committee.
Yeah.
And the first committee meetings were all in my front room.
Yeah.
A bit tight. Some wonderful people, most of them gone now, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But not all. We've got some of the originals, or nearly originals. I think other than me, there's nobody on the committee or in the working. Yeah, I think I'm probably one of the last.
When does Bob Berry get involved then?
Bob Berry got involved about 10 years after the start, and he's been brilliant for the festival. He's a hard worker, puts everything into it, but very different to myself, a different way of working. And the problem with something like the Folk Festival, it's a bit like somebody marrying your favourite daughter. They're never going to look after you the way you do. And that's how it was with Bob Berry.
I didn't think you were supposed to have favourite daughters, but anyway, or favourite children. But he worked. So Bob is carry on. Sorry. So he was.
Yeah, he was quite different, but without him, the festival would have failed after I put it down. The amount of work he put in, the amount of energy both him and Jill put in, was tremendous.
Yeah,
it's going to be a hard act to follow. The moment Torquil McInnes, he's the head of the Morris, but or was the head of the Morris, he's handed that over now a little bit, but he's taken over the committee, so the administration of the festival is in safe hands.
Yes.
The day-to-day running of the different parts is very spread out now. There is no one chief.
Yeah.
It does worry me, but there's a heck of a lot of people who are very keen on making their part of the festival work.
Yeah.
If that can be held together, and it looks like it is, because it's growing again, and to see the festival still going for over 50 years, to be involved at the very start, when we moved it to Chippenham, my two daughters, who were both at the secondary school in Chippenham, did a paper, which I've still got, to say why we should bring it to Chippenham, because Laycock was going to fail on us. We were too big for Laycock.
Yeah.
And it's a little village that's got its own idea of where it's going.
Yeah.
And to move it to Chippenham was a project that I gave to my children, passed it over, the two of them. They both were involved for years. My daughter is still in that sort of business. She makes huge circus tents and things like the Glastonbury Pyramid Stage.
Yeah.
And Sidmouth, which is our mecca, as you might say, the big festival. Hazel has just started to do the tentage for them.
Wow.
So after 50 years, and to me, I'm chuffed a bit. My daughter's taking the biggest tent down to Sidmouth.
That is summer.
For the late night dances.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. In case no one said it to you, I want to say on behalf of myself and my family that I've been able to experience over the years that we've been involved in Chippenham, the wonderful thing that is the Chippenham Folk Festival. I would dearly love to speak to someone like Bob Berry as well, because I think, I haven't got his contact.
Yeah.
If you've got his contact details, give him a shout, because it's without individuals like yourselves, people, that these things don't happen.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of the time there's resistance from the local authorities because they're not as invested as members of the communities that they serve. Often they come from a different perspective. They're not on the same sheet often as individuals that are motivated to do good for as many people as possible without any other agenda. So I want to thank you personally and all the work you've done for Youth Action Wiltshire, which means all the young people that you've come across over the years. I've been here 25 years. The second time round, I came here as a kid, as a 15-year-old. So loved the town then, lived just outside, loved it, came to school here, then went away, chose to come back here because there were things like the Folk Festival, that there were people that cared about the community. lots of things have changed about the community, and the growth that's happened, which hasn't been done with the community in mind, has been done with profit in mind, is something that's undermining the community. That is why we need the connection with what works and the people that make it work, and it's very much always individuals that live in towns. It's never, very rarely, we work all over the place, people that work for local councils, no disrespect to them, but they don't have the same motivation, often don't have the same passion. So I personally want to say thank you. I haven't seen you for years. I used to see you a lot when we used to both coalesce around the Bridge Centre. Whatever happened to that? You're a genius. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.